Hey, everybody. It's your best friend Kenny here. And today, because it's officially the spookiest month of the year, the month of October, we are going to start an iceberg series on, well, this iceberg chart is called the Unsolved Mysteries and Weird Things Iceberg. Now, for those who don't know, an iceberg chart is a chart of various things under a topic, and each layer is more obscure than the last. The idea being the top of the chart are things most people are aware of, and the bottom of the chart are things almost no one knows about. This iceberg chart is called Unsolved Mysteries and Weird Things. It was created by a user named Juan the Pickle. Now, on this channel, we don't normally support the pickle people, but we're letting Juan slide here because this is a pretty good chart. All right, let's get spooky. First up, the Zodiac Killer. This is easy. This must be an outdated chart because we all know who the Zodiac Killer is. We all know that Senator Ted Cruz from Texas is the Zodiac Killer. So I guess Juan will have to update this chart because it's no longer a mystery. Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper was an unidentified serial killer who terrorized London's Whitechapel district in 1888. He was one of the first serial killers, but not really, because there likely been serial killers for a long time, just before the term existed, right? He brutally murdered at least 5 women, all sex workers, between August and November of 1888. The murders were shockingly violent, with mutilation of the victims' bodies that suggested some knowledge of human anatomy. Jack the Ripper was never caught, despite extensive investigations and a ton of media interest. He would even taunt the police and media through letters signed Jack the Ripper. The mystery of his identity and the gruesome nature of the crimes have made Jack the Ripper one of the most infamous figures in criminal history, and the case remains unsolved to this day. Jack the Ripper is one of those cases I think that almost everybody knows about and almost everybody has seen a lot of content about. D.B. Cooper, also known as Dan Cooper, is an unidentified man who hijacked a Boeing 727 aircraft on November 24th, 1971. He claimed he had a bomb and demanded $200,000 in ransom and 4 parachutes. After landing in Seattle and receiving his demands, he allowed the passengers to disembark the plane. He then instructed the crew to fly towards Mexico City and somewhere between Seattle and Reno, Nevada, which is a pretty large space, a pretty large area between Seattle and Reno, but Cooper jumped out of the rear of the plane with the ransom money into the night and vanished. Despite an extensive investigation by the FBI, Cooper's identity and what happened to him are unknown. This is one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in FBI and American history. The Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle is a loosely defined region in the western part of the North Atlantic Ocean. It is infamous for its association with numerous disappearances, ships, aircrafts, and people. Now, I feel like growing up as a millennial, we were told that we would encounter the Bermuda Triangle and Bermuda Triangle related things a lot more frequently than we do. Stories and urban legends claim that the Bermuda Triangle experiences a higher than usual rate of unexplained disappearances. And these disappearances are attributed to paranormal or extraterrestrial activities. There are a lot of theories as to why these disappearances occur. Some believe they're magnetic anomalies, that there is an unusual magnetic field that disrupts compasses and navigation systems, kind of like Lower Wacker Drive. There is believed to be large releases of methane gas from the ocean floor, which could cause the water density to decrease and make ships sink suddenly. Whale farts, I guess. Rogue waves, perhaps unusually large and powerful waves are overwhelming ships and causing them to capsize. However, most reputable sources don't believe that the Bermuda Triangle is any more prone to disappearances than any other large, well traveled area of the ocean. The number of disappearances reported in the Bermuda Triangle is not statistically significant when compared to other areas of the ocean with similar traffic. There are natural explanations for a lot of the disappearances, including storms and hurricanes. The area is prone to frequent and powerful storms that can easily sink ships and damage aircraft. The Gulf Stream is very powerful, and that strong current can cause rapid and unpredictable changes in the weather, which could also lead to these disappearances. While the Bermuda Triangle is a legendary area full of, urban legend like lore, the area is not inherently more dangerous than any other part of the ocean. So, really, it's the ocean that's terrifying. And you shouldn't be worried about this part of the ocean. You should just be worried about all of the ocean. Area 51 is a highly classified United States Air Force facility within the Nevada Test and Training Range. It's located in the southern Nevada desert, about 83 miles northwest of Las Vegas. Its official purpose is an open training range, but the conspiracy theories believe that it is used for the development and testing of experimental aircraft and weapon systems. The CIA and the United States Air Force acquired the site in 1955 for flight testing the Lockheed U-2 spy plane. I think we can blame the band U-2 for Area 51, but that might be giving them too much credit. A lot of the conspiracy theories surrounding Area 51 are those relating to UFO or extraterrestrial theories. And these are fueled by the intense secrecy of the area and the fact that it's not accessible to the public. The most prevalent conspiracy theories for Area 51 are that it's used for reverse engineering alien technology, possibly from crashed UFOs, that it houses captured extraterrestrial beings, that they're conducting secret experiments on humans and animals, and that they are developing advanced weaponry and technology based on alien technology. The reality is, because there's intense scrutiny about this area, there are always going to be conspiracy theories floated about. It's likely just a military base with top secret security clearance. And while what the military is up to there might be scary and disturbing, it's likely not as off the wall as some of the theories suggest. Bigfoot. Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, is a large, hairy creature that allegedly inhabits the forests of the Pacific Northwest, as well as other areas, including southern Illinois, the Ozark Mountains, and areas of Ohio. Bigfoot is described as being bipedal, standing between 6 and 15 feet tall, covered in dark hair, and possessing a strong, unpleasant odor. Sounds like a guy I lived with in college. The evidence for the existence of Bigfoot include anecdotal eyewitness accounts, footprints, blurry photos and videos, and alleged hair and tissue samples. The scientific community largely considers Bigfoot to be a combination of folklore, misidentification, and hoaxes. As the argument is, if Bigfoot existed, there would be more concrete evidence of its existence. However, Bigfoot is extremely popular in pop culture. It's in books, movies, TV shows, video games. There have been a lot of TV shows involving people who call themselves Bigfoot hunters. However, these Bigfoot hunters don't appear to have ever captured a Bigfoot or even captured evidence of a Bigfoot that passes muster. So, how good are they at their jobs? Not very, in my opinion. Don't worry, Bigfoot people, you don't have to come at me. I still love you guys. It's believed people are mistaking bears, large primates, or even humans in costumes for Bigfoot. Now, personally, I feel like the legend of Bigfoot is the type of urban legend that doesn't harm anybody. It's fun to think about. Personally, I hope Bigfoot exists, running around, being all hairy and stinky and causing all sorts of problems in the woods. But I don't know. The lack of evidence doesn't really help that. I want him to be real, though. The Loch Ness Monster, also known as Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster is a cryptid that is said to inhabit Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands. Nessie is often depicted as having a long neck and one or more humps protruding from the water, resembling a plesiosaur, which was a long extinct dinosaur. The story of the Loch Ness Monster has been around for a while, but the modern interest started in 1933 when there was a road construction project in the area that provided clearer views of Loch Ness. There were many sightings reported during that area, with descriptions varying widely. The surgeon's photograph, which is the photograph you've all seen, the iconic 1934 image that seemingly shows Nessie's head and neck, was later exposed to be a hoax in the 1990s. Now, personally, I've been to Loch Ness and I didn't see Nessie, but I stuck my foot in Loch Ness, and keep in mind this was November, so it was very, very cold. I stuck my foot in there and I felt Nessie's energy. So I believe in Loch Ness. I believe in the Loch Ness Monster. Again, like Bigfoot, this is the type of legend that doesn't really harm anybody. I believe that, Scotland enjoys the tourism that Nessie brings. And I know that there are a lot of, prank videos of the internet of Scottish people having fun with tourists involving fake Nessies running around. So all in all, I'm a fan of the Loch Ness Monster. Whether or not it exists, I want the Loch Ness Monster to exist. The Roswell UFO incident. The Roswell UFO incident was an alleged crash of an unidentified flying object near Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. Rancher Mac Brazel discovered unusual debris scattered across his property in July 1947. The local Roswell Army Airfield initially issued a press release stating that they had recovered a flying disc, which caused a media flurry. The military quickly retracted that statement and claimed it was just a water balloon. And that's how a conspiracy theory is born. Whenever the government makes an initial statement and then retracts it and makes a different statement, people believe that there is a cover up going on here. So theories about what actually happened at Roswell have evolved over time. Some believe it was a crashed alien spacecraft and that the military had recovered alien bodies. It's believed the government is engaging in secret operations to study the alien technology and silence witnesses. Believe that the government is silencing witnesses because they don't want widespread panic over the existence of aliens. This has made Roswell a popular destination for UFO enthusiasts and an international cultural phenomenon. The US government claims that the debris was from a high altitude balloon project called Project Mogul, designed to monitor Soviet nuclear tests. Reports have claimed that the alleged alien bodies that were recovered were likely test dummies used in parachute experiments. Most skeptics believe that the evidence is circumstantial and insufficient to prove actual alien contact. However, as I stated before, believers point to the inconsistencies in the official story and alleged witness testimonies as proof of the cover up. Regardless of what happened, the Roswell incident is a staple of popular culture. It's fueled the public fascination with UFOs and inspired books, movies, TV shows. And, frankly, it brings a lot of tourism to the area who want to see alien stuff. Eliza Lamb. Now, Eliza Lamb was subject of a Netflix show not too long ago. So I think a lot of people know this one. But Eliza Lamb was a 21-year-old Canadian student who tragically died under mysterious circumstances in 2013 at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Her body was discovered in a water tank on the hotel's roof after guests complained about low water pressure and strange tasting water. Now, look, we've all had some Airbnb nightmares, but none of us have had dead people water. Well, as far as I'm aware, none of us have had dead people water in our Airbnbs. So Lamb went missing in late January 2013. Her body was found weeks later, raising a lot of questions about how she ended up in the water tank. Now, there's a video, and this video is pretty famous, and I'm sure a lot of you have already seen it. But the video was released by the police, and it shows Lamb behaving erratically in an elevator, pushing buttons, hiding around the corner, and gesturing wildly before she disappeared from view. The video has fueled speculation and internet theories about her death. A lot of people believing that she was in trouble, being pursued by someone, afraid for her life based on her actions. The official cause of death for Lam is an accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder listed as a contributing factor. However, people question how she accessed the rooftop and got into the tank. Lam's case has been the subject of intense online scrutiny and numerous theories. Some suggest foul play, others suggest paranormal activity, and still others point to Lamb's mental health structures. The Cecil Hotel. The Cecil Hotel has a long history of strange occurrences and paranormal experiences, which have fueled further speculation. Malaysian Flight 370. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 was an international passenger flight that mysteriously disappeared on March 8th, 2014, while flying from Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia to Beijing Capital International Airport in China. The aircraft, a Boeing 777, oh boy, was carrying 227 passengers and 12 crew members. Flight 370's last communication with the air traffic control occurred approximately 38 minutes after takeoff, when the flight was over the South China Sea. There was no distress call or signals or emergency messages from the aircraft. At some point, the plane's course deviated significantly from its planned flight plan, turning west and flying for several hours across the Malay Peninsula and the Andaman Sea. Analysis of the satellite data suggests that the plane eventually crashed in the southern Indian Ocean. There were extensive search operations conducted covering vast areas of the Indian Ocean. But the main wreckage and the passengers and crew have been undiscovered. There have been several pieces of debris confirmed to be from Flight 370 that have washed up ashore from the Indian Ocean. And while these pieces of debris may provide some clues, they don't provide a definitive answer to what happened to the plane. There are some theories about Flight 370's disappearance. Some believe that the pilot deliberately crashed the plane. Others believe that the plane was hijacked. However, no group claimed responsibility or received any benefit. Some believe there was a catastrophic mechanical failure that could have led to loss of control and the crash. Others believe that a government entity or some other entity might have been involved in the disappearance. The takeaway from Flight 370 is that it's very strange for an aircraft that big to disappear with almost no trace in such recent times. I think part of that, though, is it shows off how vast the ocean is. And, that's sort of a scary concept, is that the ocean is so vast that an entire plane full of people can crash and be gone. Rasputin. Rasputin was a controversial and enigmatic figure in Russian history, known for his influence over the last Tsar, Tsar Nicholas II, and his family during the 20th century. Rasputin was a self-proclaimed holy man and mystic from Siberia who gained notoriety for his perceived healing abilities. His apparent success in treating the Tsar's son, Alexei, who suffered from hemophilia. It sort of sounds to me like he was a con man during the time, selling snake oil. Rasputin had a close relationship with Tsarina Alexandra, which granted him significant influence over political decisions. And this led to a lot of resentment and suspicion among the Russian nobility and public. Rasputin also had an unconventional lifestyle, including heavy drinking, promiscuity, and corruption. Those are the big three. Some people call it the fun three. These rumors of his lifestyle suggested a sinister influence over the Russian royal family. Rasputin's threat to the stability of the Russian Empire led to his assassination in 1916 by a group of nobles. He was poisoned, shot, and then drowned, which seems like a lot. Seems like a lot. It's believed that Rasputin's association with the Tsar's family and the widespread belief in his negative influence on the Russian government made him a symbol of the corruption decline of the Romanov dynasty, contributing to the growing unrest that ultimately led to the Russian Revolution and the Soviet Union. So we can blame this guy for the Cold War. Great job, Rasputin. Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart was a pioneering American aviator and feminist icon. I shouldn't even say feminist icon, gender equality icon. A gender equality icon who broke numerous aviation records and became a symbol of courage and determination. Amelia Earhart was the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean in 1932. In 1937, during an attempt to fly around the globe, Earhart and her navigator disappeared over the Pacific Ocean. What happened to Amelia Earhart remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. There is a belief that Amelia's plane crashed and washed ashore on some remote island somewhere, and that she eventually passed from exposure. However, it's just a rumor. Madeleine McCann. Madeleine McCann was a 3-year-old British girl who disappeared from her family's holiday apartment or hotel in Portugal on the evening of May 3rd, 2007. Her disappearance is one of the most heavily reported missing persons cases in modern history. In what is a nightmare for any parent, Madeleine vanished from her bed while her parents were dining with friends at a nearby restaurant. Despite searches and investigation, what happened to her is unknown. The Portugal police initially focused on the possibility of an abduction, but also investigated Madeleine's parents, Kate and Jerry McCann, as potential suspects. However, they stopped their investigation into Madeleine's parents due to lack of evidence. In 2011, the British Metropolitan Police launched their own investigation, which remains ongoing. In 2020, a German suspect emerged, Christian Bruckner, who is a convicted PDF file and happened to be living in that area of Portugal at the time of Madeleine's disappearance. However, no charges have been filed, but the investigations continue to focus on him. Her parents and others continue to hold on to hope that she is alive and will return home someday. Jimmy Hoffa. Jimmy Hoffa, I feel like, is a name a lot of people recognize, but I'm not sure how many people still know who Jimmy Hoffa was. He was a powerful and controversial leader of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, a union, and he vanished without a trace on July 30th, 1975. This is one of the most infamous disappearances in American history. Hoffa was last seen in the parking lot of the Mac's Red Fox restaurant in Bloomfield Township, Michigan, where he was supposed to meet with two mafia figures. Despite decades of searching, Hoffa's body has never been found, and no one has ever been charged with his death or his disappearance. The prevailing theory is that Hoffa was murdered by the mafia, which is fair because most people who make deals with the mafia end up having that happen to them. However, there are other theories too, and a fairly plausible theory is the fact that Hoffa just decided to disappear from public consciousness. If that's what happened, if Hoffa decided to disappear, his ability to do so has to be one of the most effective disappearances of all time, as it appears that he disappeared without a trace. Brian Schaefer. Brian Schaefer is a very popular recent disappearance case. Recent in that it happened on April 1st, 2006, so within the last 20 years. Brian Schaefer was a medical student. He went out one night with some friends. The night before, he was supposed to go on a trip with his then fiance. His disappearance has fueled a lot of internet speculation, and there's a lot of videos and theories floating around online in order to figure out what happened to the 27-year-old medical student. The scariest part of this case is that Brian was seen entering a bar in Columbus, Ohio called the Ugly Tuna Saloon. And there's surveillance footage of him at 1:55 a.m. talking to two women outside of the Ugly Tuna Saloon and then re-entering the bar, but no footage of him ever leaving. There's no footage of him exiting any of the bar's exits. There's been an extensive search. The police, family, friends have all conducted extensive searches. The videotape has been released, and people, online sleuths have attempted to comb through the footage and see if they can find Brian leaving the bar, and it doesn't appear that he does. Police have also reviewed surveillance footage from surrounding businesses, including nearby construction sites, rivers, and there's no footage of him leaving that night. No trace of Brian Schaefer has ever been found. There are a lot of theories about what happened to Brian. Some believe that he may have fallen into a construction site or into the river and that his body was never recovered. Others believe he was a victim of foul play, perhaps abducted or murdered. Still others believe that because there's no video footage of him actually leaving the bar, that perhaps he somehow became trapped somewhere inside the bar. However, there have been numerous searches inside the bar, including high-tech equipment, trying to see if there was a body somewhere in there, and he's never been found. A prevailing theory is that people believed he may have chosen to disappear and start a new life. People believe that perhaps he left through a window, although the bar was on a second story. That wouldn't be too far for him to jump down or climb down to get away, be out of the range of surveillance footage. And again, if he were able to disappear completely like that, it's pretty incredible in a time where most people had cell phones and most places had surveillance cameras. So, what do you think? Do you have any theories about any of the stories we talked about today? Leave me a comment. Let's hear about it. Go ahead, follow me on Twitter. My username is akbrews. Follow me on TikTok. My username is akbrews. Please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the bell if you'd like to receive notifications when I upload. If there are any other spooky, disturbing stories you'd like me to research or cover, send me an email, thespookylawyer@gmail.com. We will cover part 2 of this iceberg shortly. The video is coming. Hey, spooky people, it's your best friend Kenny here. Because it's October, we're doing an iceberg chart, unsolved mysteries and weird things by Juan the Pickle. If you like spooky content, please subscribe. All right, let's get spooky. This is part 2 of the first tier. Now, I know it's a little bit complicated, but stay with me. You can watch the videos in this tier in any order. So after this video, go watch part 1. It's good. I promise. Would I lie to you? Cicada 3301. Cicada 3301 is the name of a series of elaborate mysteries and online puzzles that appeared between 2012 and 2014. These puzzles claim they were designed to recruit highly intelligent individuals through a series of increasingly complex challenges that involved cryptology, cryptography, steganography, data security, and internet anonymity. Now, we all know no one's anonymous on the internet, except maybe anonymous. The puzzles captured the internet's attention due to their sophisticated nature and the mystery around the creators. People were running around wondering, what is this? Speculation about the organization behind Cicada 3301 ran rampant, with theories ranging from it being a recruitment tool for intelligence agencies like the NSA or CIA to some sort of private organization or think tank or even some sort of secret society. Despite the intense public interest and collaborative efforts to solve the puzzles, the true purpose and identity of Cicada 3301 remains unknown. The organization itself has never been officially identified, and the few individuals who have claimed to have successfully completed their puzzles have not spoken about their experiences. Now, I was in downtown Chicago. Well, I'm frequently in downtown Chicago, but I had actually run into a poster that was purportedly a Cicada 3301 poster. So maybe they're back. Maybe it's a copycat. Who knows? The Jersey Devil. Whenever I think of New Jersey, I think of that SNL thing, New Jersey. Anyway, the Jersey Devil is a legendary creature said to inhabit the Pine Barrens of southern New Jersey. It is often described as a flying biped with hooves, and there are many variations. Some common descriptions include it being a kangaroo like body, a horse or goat like head, leathery bat like wings, horns, small arms with clawed hands, legs with cloven hooves, a forked or pointed tail. Sounds like someone you'd encounter at closing time at the bar. The legend's origins trace back to the 18th century, with tales of the creature being the 13th child of a woman named Mother Leeds. The child was supposedly cursed and transformed into the monstrous Jersey Devil at birth. Over the years, there have been countless reported sightings and encounters with the Jersey Devil, adding to the mystique and intrigue surrounding this cryptid. While the existence of the Jersey Devil remains unproven, its legend continues to capture imaginations and serve as a captivating piece of folklore associated with New Jersey. We should ask New Jersey's Twitter account what they think about the New Jersey Devil. I bet we get a good answer because it's a good Twitter account. The Kraken. Look, we all remember that commercial or that trailer for that movie where they shouted, "Release the Kraken." And then all of a sudden, the Kraken became hijacked by some lawyers that were trying to overthrow the election, and it kinda ruined the coolness of the Kraken. But we need to bring the Kraken back, okay? We need to bring the Kraken back and restore the Kraken to its greatness. See what I did there? The Kraken is a legendary sea monster appearing in Scandinavian folklore. It is usually depicted as a colossal squid like creature, capable of engulfing and destroying entire ships with its massive tentacles. It makes me hungry for calamari. Historically, the Kraken was said to dwell off the coasts of Norway and Iceland, striking fear into the hearts of sailors who dared venture into its domain. I feel like the Norse areas, there's a lot of fear that gets stricken into the hearts of people who lived in Norway, Iceland, Sweden, any of those Viking areas. Just those hearts are just constantly struck with fear. While the Kraken is a myth, it's believed that the sightings of giant squids may have been the origin of this myth, and that makes sense to me. You know, if you saw a giant squid and you were, in the whatever 1600s or 1400s or whenever those Vikings were running around, and you had no idea what the hell this thing is, you would probably be like, "Oh yeah, this is some type of monster." Now, Kraken is also used in some other contexts. You know, there is the Seattle Kraken, which I actually think is probably one of the cooler names for a hockey team. There is also a cryptocurrency exchange platform called the Kraken, which is also kind of scary. El Chupacabra, or in English, the Chupacabra, which literally means the goat sucker, is a legendary cryptid said to inhabit parts of the Americas, particularly in Puerto Rico, Mexico, and the southwestern United States. It's notorious for attacking and drinking the blood of livestock, particularly goats. Physical descriptions of the chupacabra vary widely, but most common characteristics include a reptilian or canine like appearance. Some describe it as bipedal, with spikes or quills along its back, while others describe it as a hairless, canine like animal with glowing red eyes. Its size reportedly ranges from small, dog sized, to large, bear sized. Sightings also happen to occur at night. The legend of the chupacabra gained widespread attention in the 1990s due to a significant amount of livestock deaths in Puerto Rico. Since then, there have been reported sightings and alleged attacks across the Americas. While the existence of the chupacabra is, of course, unconfirmed, the legend continues to capture the imaginations of spooky people like you and me. Some believe it's an actual cryptid, while others believe it's a misidentified animal or just a giant hoax. The Island of the Dolls, or La Isla de las Muñecas in Spanish. I know I have some impressive Spanish pronunciation skills. The Island of the Dolls is a small, eerie island located south of Mexico City. And it's known for the hundreds, if not thousands, of decaying dolls and doll parts that hang from trees, fences, and structures all over the island. That is really creepy. The story behind the island is intertwined with the late Don Julian Santana Barrera, who lived there alone for decades. I'm shocked he couldn't find a girlfriend with a giant collection of dolls, creepy dolls. I'm shocked nobody wanted to date him. Legend says he found the body of a drowned girl in the canal and soon after a doll floating nearby. He believed the doll belonged to the girl and hung it on a tree as a tribute. Over time, he became convinced that the island was haunted by the girl's spirit and began collecting and hanging more dolls to appease her. Today, the Island of the Dolls is a popular tourist destination, and visitors bring dolls to add to the collection. Look, if something happens to me, don't make a creepy doll island in my memory. Okay. I think most creepy things would please me, but I think I would like most creepy things, but I don't want a creepy doll island. I'm actually going to put that in my will. Sleep paralysis. S- Sleep paralysis is a phenomenon where you temporarily experience a state of consciousness but are unable to move or speak. It typically occurs during transitions between sleep and wakefulness, either when falling asleep or waking up. During an episode, you're fully aware of your surroundings, but your muscles are paralyzed. The paralysis can last for a few seconds to several minutes. Some people also experience hallucinations, such as feeling a presence in the room, hearing strange noises or voices, seeing pressure on their chest, seeing shadowy figures, seeing the man in the black hat if you took a bunch of Benadryl. Sleep paralysis is thought to be related to disrupted REM sleep. Sometimes the paralysis persists for a short time after you wake up or before you fall asleep. I genuinely wonder whether most people who experience sleep paralysis are actually just having a nightmare, because I think I've had recurring nightmares where I feel like I'm conscious or I'm running from something, but I'm unable to move. And I think that's a pretty popular nightmare. In case you want to experience sleep paralysis or don't want to experience sleep paralysis if you're no fun, factors that can increase the likelihood of experiencing sleep paralysis include irregular sleep patterns, sleep deprivation, stress, certain medications, narcolepsy. Now, doctors say sleep paralysis itself is not dangerous. However, the experience can be quite frightening and distressing. Polybius. Now, this is one that you should probably know and you probably don't know. This is one of those sort of spooky mysteries. Polybius is one of those spooky urban legend mysteries that, surfaced in the 80s. It was about a video game from the 1980s, and it's sort of one of the first, if not the first, haunted video game urban legend. The legend claims that Polybius is psychoactive, causing psychological effects like nightmares and even amnesia in players. Some players were unable to stop playing the game. Other rumors are that it's government linked, that mysterious men in black collected data from the machines, which of course led to people claiming that Polybius was a mind control experiment. Supposedly, Polybius quickly disappeared from arcades, adding to the mystique and the idea of a cover up, and is also a convenient explanation why you've never actually seen a Polybius arcade game. Now, there's no actual evidence that Polybius ever existed. There are a few theories about the legend's origins, and I think one of the main theories is that it was just sort of part of this idea that people were trying to demonize video games and video game culture, and likely created this myth to scare people into, not playing video games. There's also been, real life events involving arcade games. For example, some arcade games could cause seizures. Um, but I think a pretty good explanation for it is the cultural anxiety of technology and the idea that video games were sort of this unknown thing that were taken over. Polybius is a really good rabbit hole if you want to go down it, though. I suggest it. It's Kenny approved. MK Ultra. Now we're talking. MK Ultra was a covert, illegal experimentation program conducted by the CIA from the 1950s to the 1970s. I love it when things are called illegal when they're done by the CIA, as if, the government isn't the one who creates the law and enforces the law and interprets the law. There you go. Some legal. I'm just gonna cut that. I don't know where I was going. I had nothing cool to say. I had nothing cool to say. The program's primary goal was to develop mind control and behavior modification techniques, and the aim was to use them for espionage and interrogation purposes during the Cold War. Some methods employed by MK Ultra were highly unethical and controversial, including drug experimentation. Subjects were often unwillingly and unwittingly given LSD or other psychoactive substances to study their effects on consciousness and behavior. Hypnosis. Hypnotic techniques were used to attempt to control the subject's thoughts and actions. Sensory deprivation. Subjects were isolated and deprived of sensory input to induce psychological distress and suggestibility. Psychological torture. Techniques like electroshock therapy and verbal abuse were used to break down the subject's resistance. What happened to me in law school? MK Ultra's existence was largely kept secret until the 1970s when a series of investigations and congressional hearings brought it to light. The program's revelations sparked public outrage and led to significant reforms in human research ethics. And the government stopped trying to do weird stuff like that, right? Right? While the full extent of MK Ultra's impact remains unknown, it's clear that the program violated basic human rights and caused significant harm to many individuals. Annabelle. We've all seen The Conjuring, we've all seen Annabelle, we've all seen The Nun. I actually need to do like a whole binge watch of the whole Annabelle cinematic universe, but that's neither here nor there. Annabelle, really, this is one of the funny things about this one is if you saw what Annabelle looks like in real life versus what they made Annabelle look like in the movies, well, why don't I show you what it looks like? Annabelle is a supposedly haunted Raggedy Ann doll currently residing in the Warrens Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut. The doll gained notoriety through the stories of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who claimed that Annabelle was possessed by a demonic entity. There's a lot of spooky stuff. There's a lot of spooky stuff in the Northeast. You've got Salem, Maine is just sort of generally spooky, but it's like a cool spooky. And then you got, this thing in Connecticut. According to the Warrens, Annabelle was given to a nursing student in 1970. The student and her roommates soon began experiencing strange occurrences, including the doll seemingly moving on its own, leaving handwritten notes, and even attacking a friend. The Warrens were called in to investigate and determined that the doll was not possessed by the spirit of a deceased girl, as was initially believed, but by a malevolent demonic presence. They took the doll into their possession and placed it into their museum, where it remains today. Now, I have an unpopular theory about hauntings and ghosts and poltergeists. And I'm not saying ghosts aren't real because they could be. I've never experienced a ghost or a poltergeist or a spirit or a demon, and I'm not saying that they aren't real, okay? But I feel like a lot of ghost stories are probably related to cats. I'll flush that theory out in another video, but when people like things were moving on their own, I heard strange noises, weird stuff was going on. Did they have a cat? Because cats do all that kind of weird stuff in the middle of the night, especially. Just saying. Just saying. Not trying to blow my street cred as the spooky lawyer here, because like I said, I total possibility that ghosts exist. I just feel like a lot of these ghost stories are cat related. Robert the Doll. Robert the Doll is a supposedly haunted doll currently residing at the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. He's known for his unsettling appearance, a life size boy doll dressed in a sailor suit with beady eyes and a somewhat sinister grin. Kind of sounds to me like any sort of kid that you have dressed up in a sailor suit. They generally have a sinister look to them. I don't understand why people dress kids in sailor suits. Though they don't really do that often, do they, anymore? That was like an 80s and 90s thing, right? Robert was gifted to Robert Eugene Otto in 1904, either by his grandfather, according to the official story, or a disgruntled servant, according to the locals. Who are you going to trust? We're going with disgruntled servant. And became deeply attached to the doll, even naming it after himself. The Otto family began reporting strange occurrences and phenomena around Robert the doll. Objects moving, giggles heard, and Jean blaming the doll for mischief. Neighbors even claimed to see Robert move from window to window when the house was empty. Robert the doll was left in the attic until the house was sold after Jean's death. The new owner's daughter also claimed to be terrorized by the doll, leading to its donation to a museum in 1994. So now the doll lives in a museum, and people who go and look at the doll say the doll's doing weird stuff in the museum. It's moving, making my camera malfunction, supposedly wrote some notes to guests. Feel like someone would see the doll writing, but what do I know? Well, what are some possible explanations? Some people believe that Gene simply projected his mischief onto the doll, which is a common childhood behavior. Common adulthood. Projection is, as I like to say, projection is not just a river in Egypt. A lot of people project their mischief or other bad behavior onto certain things. However, there are a significant portion of people who believe that this doll has been engaged in genuine paranormal activity. Blank Room Soup. Blank Room Soup is a disturbing video that is circulated on the internet. There's a lot of claims that it's from the dark web or it's creepy pasta. People who've been online for a long time in creepy and spooky spaces have seen this video, no doubt. The video has a distressed looking man sitting in a white room being fed a bowl of soup by two figures wearing odd, oversized mascot style costumes. The man appears to be fearful, scared, while the figures seem to be coaxing him or forcing him to eat. There is no dialogue and only eerie background music. There are a lot of theories about this. Some people believe that this is some sort of form of torture that the man is undergoing. Some people believe he's engaged in force feeding or some sort of mind control. There's a part of the legend suggests that he's being forced into cannibalism, and others claim it's a psychological experiment, that the video may be this disturbing experiment exploring power dynamics and compliance. Now, look, this is one of those videos that's been around for a while. There's a whole bunch of videos about this in the rabbit hole. I don't want to ruin it for you, but a guy came out and said, "Hey, yeah, those those costumes were my creation, but someone stole those costumes out of my van and made this very strange video." So, the main theory, and the theory that I think holds the most water personally, is that this is a performance art piece or some sort of viral marketing that has just taken off because of how creepy it was. And it would have been one of the first, you know, internet viral marketing campaigns. But it kind of got out of control from this guy, and people are still talking about it today. Black holes. Black holes are fascinating objects in the universe. I think whenever I think of a black hole, I think of that choose your own adventure story in space where one of the choices you have gets you sucked into a black hole, and there's like a picture of like this skeleton astronaut sort of burned into my brain. I'm not a physicist, so if you want to know more about black holes, I think you should actually read or listen to a video from someone who knows what they're talking about. But as far as I'm aware, nobody really knows what black holes do, what happens if you go through a black hole. I assume it's bad. I assume it's a bad thing that happens to you if you go through a black hole. But maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. The Yeti, also known as the abominable snowman, is a legendary creature that inhabits the Himalayan region of Nepal and Tibet. It is described as a large ape-like creature covered in white or reddish-brown fur walking upright on two legs. Yetis are supposedly tall, between 6 to 10 feet tall, bipedal, usually with thick white or reddish-brown fur, a powerful build, elusive and rarely seen. Kind of echoes the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, cryptid mythology. However, this is part of the folklore of the Himalayan people's mythology. Doppelgangers. Doppelgangers sort of have a traditional meaning and then sort of like the meaning that we talk of today. Now, the traditional meaning of a doppelganger is a ghost-like or paranormal double of a living person. So basically there's this ghost that just sort of looks like you, right? But a lot of people sort of consider doppelgangers now to just be someone who just is not a ghost, or as far as we're aware, is not a ghost, right? We don't know, but as far as we're aware, is not a ghost that just sort of looks like you. Um, it's sort of taken on that new meaning. I think it's a less spooky meaning, but it is kind of weird to see someone who looks a lot like you. Um, so I kind of prefer the new meaning anyway. Because there is something weird about seeing someone who looks a lot like you, but isn't you. Easter Island. Easter Island is a remote volcanic island in the southeastern Pacific Ocean where the Easter Bunny lives. Right? No? Not the Easter Bunny? Okay. It's famous for its iconic, massive stone statues with oversized heads and solemn expressions. These statues were supposedly created by the island's early inhabitants between the 13th and 16th centuries. Easter Island is one of the most isolated inhabited places on Earth. Its remote location and cultural heritage have made it a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a popular tourist destination. Stonehenge. Stonehenge is a prehistorical monument located in the Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire, England. It's one of the most famous and mysterious archaeological sites in the world, consisting of a circular setting of a massive standing stones, each around 13 feet high, 7 feet wide, and weighing around 25 tons. It was believed to be built in several phases between 3000 and 1500 BC, and these massive stones were transported from far away, which people still don't understand how these giant ass stones were brought to this place and then set up in this manner. There are theories as to what Stonehenge is or what it was. The some of the theories range from it being some of the theories range from it being a burial site or a place of worship or an astronomical observatory. Atlantis. Atlantis is a legendary island civilization first mentioned in the dialogues of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. It is depicted as a powerful and advanced naval power that existed thousands of years before Plato's time. According to the story, Atlantis eventually fell out of favor with the gods and sank into the Atlantic Ocean in a single day and night of catastrophic events. Some key aspects of the Atlantis legend are: it was written around 360 BC. Atlantis is described as a large island located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, believed to be the Strait of Gibraltar. It was a utopian society with a sophisticated civilization, advanced technology, and a powerful military. However, the Atlanteans became corrupt and power hungry, leading to their downfall. The gods punished them by causing earthquakes and floods that submerged the island beneath the ocean. Of course, there's no actual evidence that Atlantis ever existed. Most people believe that it was a fictional work of Plato used to illustrate, you know, allegory. Believe that it was an allegorical narrative. However, people still talk about Atlantis, and I'm sure you could find some people who believe that Atlantis was a weird place or will tell you that it's a weird place. Ask your uncle on Facebook. I'm sure you have an uncle on Facebook that probably believes in Atlantis. Death Valley National Park. Now, when I think of Death Valley, I think of the WWF, now known as the WWE wrestler, The Undertaker, because he was supposedly from Death Valley, right? Death Valley is an awesome name. And you know what? I think the place lives up to the name. It is a massive desert renowned for its scorching heat, arid landscapes, and stunning geological formations. It's in eastern California and stretches into Nevada, and it's the largest national park in the contiguous United States. It features the Badwater Basin, the lowest point in North America, at 282 feet below sea level, which features vast salt flats that are surreal looking. It has the Zabriskie Point, which is the vantage point that offers a panoramic view of the colorful Badlands. Beautiful, supposedly beautiful. I've never been there. And the Mesquite Flat sand dunes. These are towering sand dunes sculpted by the wind that provide opportunities for hiking, photography, and experiencing the vastness of the desert, or as I like to call it, staring into the void. If you're a void starer like me, seems like this would be up your alley. It gets really hot there during the day, and it can get really cold there at night. So if you really enjoy being uncomfortable in several different ways, you should go check out Death Valley. Or if you like nature and hiking and lizards. Anyway, this is your best friend, Kenny. We have finished part 2 of the first tier of this iceberg chart. Stay tuned for part 3 of tier 1 of this iceberg chart. Hey, spooky people, it's your best friend Kenny, and we are back with part 3 of tier 1 of our iceberg series of the Unsolved Mysteries and Weird Things Iceberg. If you like spooky and disturbing things, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Spooky Lawyer. If you'd like to email me with some spooky or disturbing story you'd like me to research, send me an email at thespookylawyer@gmail.com. Let's get spooky. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is a British surreal comedy web series created by Becky Sloan and Joseph Pelling. It's known for its dark comedy and disturbing imagery, and the combination of puppetry, animation, and live action. The series sets up as a cheerful, childlike atmosphere with colorful puppets and catchy songs, similar to Sesame Street. However, things quickly take a dark turn, and there are more bizarre, unsettling, and disturbing themes. It's a lot like Wonder Chosen, if you remember that show. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared relies on surreal imagery, non sequiturs, and disturbing scenarios to create a sense of unease and psychological horror. The episodes often delve into existential themes with concepts like time, creativity, and identity, but explored in very unsettling ways. The series has a dark comedic tone, and the humor comes from the absurdity of situations, the characters' reactions, and of course the juxtaposition between the cheerful, childlike television show and the disturbing subject matter. It critiques societal norms, conformity, and the ways in which information and education are used for manipulation in our society. The series revolves around three main characters: red guy, yellow guy, and duck. And they find themselves in various everyday situations, such as having a meal or learning about creativity or time in class. However, the situations devolve into unsettling and bizarre experiences led by puppets or other entities that are posing as teachers, who often are sinister or cruel or just strange. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared gained a cult following online for its unique blend of horror, comedy, and social commentary. It's really one of those things that people go, okay, you got to watch this thing. And they're like, what the hell is this thing when they watch it? But again, I highly recommend it. You can find the series on YouTube, the original web series on YouTube. And there is also a British television station picked it up for an actual run on TV for different episodes. And those are also available. I think you can find them on YouTube, but you can also find them online elsewhere. Salad Fingers. Salad Fingers is another surreal and disturbing animated web series, and this one was created by David Firth in 2004. It involves the character Salad Fingers, a thin, green, strange man who lives in a desolate world. The series is one of the first weird internet art projects, animation projects that really kind of went viral. There's a lot of gruesome imagery, bleeding objects, rusty spoons, unsettling creatures. And it explores themes of isolation, mental illness, and people's reality breaking down. The animation style, sound design, and David Firth's distinctive voice create a deeply unsettling product or show. The series doesn't have a narrative structure. Instead, it presents a series of fragmented and nonsensical scenes. And this narrative ambiguity also creates the disturbingness of the show. Despite of, or most likely because of its disturbing content, Salad Fingers has gained a cult following and is considered a landmark in internet animation. Again, it was one of the first really weird internet web series that sort of explored these type of disturbing themes. You can find Salad Fingers on YouTube, and I suggest checking it out. You know, it might not be exactly for you, but it's certainly something that's worth experiencing. I Feel Fantastic. I Feel Fantastic is an unsettling music video featuring a singing android named Tara. This was created by John Bergeron in the early 2000s. And it's an exercise in the uncanny valley and creepy and surreal video techniques. Now, the uncanny valley is the theory that the more human-like an object is or a character is, the more sympathy people have for it. However, there is a certain level where it becomes a level of human-like quality that it becomes disturbing because of how similar yet slightly off the character or the subject is. So Tara, the android, is a lesson in the uncanny valley. Her movements are stiff and unnatural, her facial expressions are blank and emotionless, and her voice is monotone and synthetic despite having a human-like appearance. The song itself is also strange. The lyrics are repetitive and nonsensical, and they focus on Tara's fantasticness. The music is simple and repetitive and has sort of almost like a childlike song sound to it. The video takes place in a stark, empty room with a plain white background. This also helps make the video be more disturbing. It gives off feelings of isolation. And there's just a lot of unanswered questions. Why does this video exist? The answer is the video exists probably because it's weird, and to be weird. But regardless, it's still an interesting video that I think is worth watching. Definitely something that has made the rounds on the internet, and a lot of people who have been online for a while have probably either seen the video or seen something referencing the video. Dark matter. Dark matter is a mysterious and invisible substance that makes up about 27% of the universe. It doesn't interact with light or electromagnetic radiation, which makes it impossible to see directly. However, we know it exists because of its gravitational effects on visible matter. Now, I'm not a physicist. I'm not an astrophysicist. So if you're more interested in this, you should probably, find something that someone who knows what they're talking about has to say about this. But dark matter has mass. They know that because of its gravitational pull on other objects. And it makes up about 85% of the matter in the universe, which is crazy. Again, if you're more interested in looking into dark matter or space, I would suggest there's plenty of other people who are more qualified than me to try to explain what exactly dark matter is. The Voynich manuscript. The Voynich manuscript is one of the most intriguing mysteries in the world of cryptography and, really historical documents. It's an illustrated and handwritten script that is in a language or script that has been unable to be solved for centuries. The book has been carbon dated to the early 15th century, somewhere between 1404 and 1438. There are around 240 pages, but some of those pages are missing. It's written from left to right in a language dubbed Voynichese. It contains diagrams and illustrations of strange plants, astronomical diagrams, astrological symbols, and human figures. The belief of the manuscript is that it's divided into 6 sections. There's the botanical section, which depicts a variety of unknown plants. The astronomical and astrological section, which includes the stars, planets, and zodiac symbols. There's the biological section, which shows human figures in the nude, frequently in the nude. There's the cosmological section, which contains circular diagrams that represent the cosmos or elements. The pharmaceutical section, which depicts various plants and what appear to be recipes or instructions. And there are recipes for decorations. I don't know. People have tried to crack the code of the Voynich manuscript for centuries, and no one's been able to do it. No one knows who wrote it. No one knows why this exists. Its early history is unknown, but it may have been owned by the Emperor Rudolf II of the Holy Roman Empire. Wilfrid Voynich is the person who the manuscript is named after, was a Polish book dealer who acquired it in 1912. Since 1969, the book has been at Yale University at the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library. It's also available online. Now, the mystery is what keeps people intrigued about the Voynich manuscript. Some people believe that there is some sort of secret hidden message in the manuscript. Some people believe that this is some sort of invented or artificial language that someone created. Others believe it was a hoax. Someone wrote this book and put it out in the world and said someone's going to be confused by this thing. Just kind of funny, trolling. And there are still other people who believe that it was the result of a person who suffered from mental illness and just wrote this thing. I personally like the idea that it's just a big old cookbook that people are sort of obsessed with. And maybe it's got some really good recipes for, like, I don't know, wings or something. I'm guessing they had chickens in the 1400s, but what do I know? I'm not a historian. Robert Wadlow. Robert Pershing Wadlow holds the world record for the tallest person in recorded history. Tallest documented person in recorded history. He was 8 foot 11.1 inches tall. He grew throughout his entire life. Despite his towering nature and the difficulty he had with life being that tall, he was known to be a very kind and gentle individual, and he was nicknamed the Gentle Giant. He was born in Alton, Illinois, and when he was a child, he was an average-sized baby, but began growing rapidly in early childhood and just kept growing. He faced a lot of challenges and health problems, particularly with his legs and feet. He needed leg braces to walk, suffered from reduced sensations in his limbs. Now, I'm 6'3", and I have a hard time fitting in certain places. I can't imagine what it was like to be 8'11". It had to have been terrible. Like, literally, he had to have been uncomfortable his entire life. Wadlow became a public figure celebrity and toured with the Ringling Brothers Circus as well as the International Shoe Company. If you've been to law school, International Shoe should give you a little bit of a triggering effect. The International Shoe Company would give him custom-made shoes, which was nice of him. There is a statue of Robert Wadlow in Alton, Illinois. Sadly, because of his condition, he died young at 22. At 22 years old, he was 22 years old when he died. And he died due to complications from an infected blister on his ankle. We're going to talk about some of these other names real quick. They're just the tallest and shortest people. The tallest man, the shortest man, the tallest woman, and the shortest woman. And just get those sort of out real quick. Chandra Bahadur Dangi is the shortest man to ever live, who was 1'9". Zhang Jinlin was the tallest woman to ever live at 8'2". And Pauline Musters was the shortest woman to ever live at 2 feet tall. Jean-Louise Calment is the oldest person to ever live a documented lifespan, and she lived to be 122 years and 164 days. Tarare was a French showman and soldier remembered for his unusual appetite and eating habits. He was seemingly always hungry and was able to eat vast quantities of meat. So can I. In fact, his appetite was so immense that his parents couldn't provide for him, and he was forced to leave home as a teenager. Here's what we know about Tarare's unusual condition in life. After leaving home, Tarare traveled with a band of thieves and prostitutes. Sounds like a party. And eventually became a warm-up act for a traveling charlatan. His act involved swallowing corks, stones, live animals, and even a whole basket of apples. Unclear if the apples were whole or he just sort of ate a whole bunch of apples. I feel like it's more impressive if the apples were whole. He then became a street performer in Paris. Tarare joined the French Revolutionary Army. However, even military rations couldn't satisfy his hunger. He resorted to scavenging and doing tasks for soldiers in exchange for food, but it was never enough. He was eventually hospitalized due to exhaustion. While in the military hospital, doctors were astonished by Tarare's eating habits and his ability to consume enormous amounts of food without gaining significant weight. He was constantly hungry and suffered from severe body odor and diarrhea. Ooh, sounds like he's fun to be around, right? Eating everything, stinky, pooping everywhere. Despite medical examinations, the cause of his condition remained a mystery. Terrar's unusual abilities led him to be employed as a spy by the French army. He was tasked with swallowing documents and smuggling them across enemy lines. However, his first mission failed and he was captured by the Prussians. Also, unclear about what happens after he swallows the document. Do they just wait for him to poop it out and hope that it's legible? I don't know. After his failed espionage career, Terrar returned to the hospital where he continued to be a source of fascination for doctors. However, he was eventually kicked out of the hospital because he was suspected of attempting to eat corpses in the hospital morgue. And then he died a few years later from tuberculosis. That's why you don't eat dead bodies, dead human people, especially corpses. I assume they were raw. To this day, nobody knows what his medical condition was. Pripyat. Pripyat is a ghost city in northern Ukraine near the border with Belarus. It was founded in 1970 as a modern planned city to house workers and plants of the nearby Chernobyl nuclear plant. Pripyat was once a thriving community, boasting a population of nearly 50,000 people. It had all sorts of amenities, such as schools, hospitals, shops, restaurants, and an amusement park. You've probably seen pictures of the amusement park. I know if you follow me on Twitter, you do, because I post stuff from Chernobyl and Pripyat all the time. However, April 26th, 1986, the Chernobyl disaster struck. The Chernobyl disaster, of course, was a catastrophic nuclear accident that occurred at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. A sudden surge of power during a reactor systems test resulted in a series of explosions and fires, releasing large amounts of radioactive material into the atmosphere. Pripyat, located just 3 kilometers from the power plant, was heavily contaminated by the radioactive fallout. Its residents were evacuated 36 hours after the incident, and the city was abandoned, and it remains uninhabited to this day. Today, Pripyat stands as a frozen-in-time testament to the bygone Soviet era and is a living memorial of the Chernobyl disaster. Pripyat has become a popular tourist destination as part of dark tourism. And people can go into Pripyat because it's safe to at least be there for a little bit, take pictures, observe, the stark, desolate looking space. Actually, heading to Pripyat is on my bucket list. I would absolutely love to go to Chernobyl and view what is the most famous ghost city in the world. The Max Headroom incident. The Max Headroom incident is a piece of spooky Chicago lore that, because of the internet, has become more famous, and I think a lot of people know about it, but some people don't. It's a great rabbit hole. Essentially, it was a hijacking of 2 local television channels in Chicago. On November 22nd, 1987, 2 Chicago television stations had their broadcast symbols interrupted by an unidentified person wearing a Max Headroom mask and sunglasses. Now, I didn't know who Max Headroom was before I learned about the Max Headroom incident, but I guess in the 80s, he was this sort of character that was supposed to be this, futuristic talk show host. And if you look at it now, it's very much, sort of retro future vibes. He's very much like a talking head, right? Of retrofuturism. First up was the WGN TV intrusion. During the sports segment of WGN's 9 p.m. newscast, the signal was hijacked for about 20 seconds. The screen displayed a person wearing a Max Headroom mask and sunglasses. swaying in front of a rotating metal sheet mimicking the background of the actual Max Headroom TV show. The audio was distorted and buzzing with occasional laughter and distorted voices. The broadcast abruptly returned to the newscast as if nothing had happened. However, later that night, around 11:15 p.m., the signal of the PBS station WTTW, Channel 11, if you're in Chicago, was interrupted during an airing of Doctor Who. This time, the masked figure appeared for about 90 seconds, and he rambled, talked a whole bunch of nonsense with bizarre statements and obscenities, brought up Chuck Swirsky, who is a news sportscaster. He exposed his butt and was spanked by an off-screen accomplice with a fly swatter. And then the transmission cut back to Doctor Who. This incident, the person who did this, the person who was responsible for hijacking these two television stations, has never been found. No one knows who did it. And it's believed that it would have taken a significant amount of knowledge and technical sophistication to be able to override the broadcast symbols of two separate TV stations. There was a Vice article a number of years ago, as well as a Reddit thread a few years ago, where they attempted to solve the Max Headroom mystery. And while they did have a pretty interesting argument as to who it was later determined that those individuals were not responsible. The most mysterious song on the internet. This is sort of a vague one, but what happens frequently is there will be a song that somebody hears, and they usually post it to Reddit or some other web forum and says, hey, there's a song that I heard, and it goes something like this. Or they have a little bit of a recording or a snippet of the song and attempt to figure out who was responsible for this song. And eventually, because collectively we are incredible at investigation and finding things out, the name and the artist of that song will be found. Well, recently, what I believe that this entry refers to, I believe that this most mysterious song on the internet is referring to a song that sort of was called or considered Like the Wind. And this was recently solved just in the last few months, and it turned out it was a song that the person who had posted it had heard it on an adult movie. So he got busted a little bit. His curiosity sort of exposed him a little bit there as being a different type of curious, I guess, if you know what I'm saying. Not that there's anything wrong with that. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum art heist. There aren't enough heists these days, I guess there are some, but you can't really get away with a good heist anymore. What with cameras everywhere, and there are license plate readers on basically every highway. But the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum art heist is one of the most infamous unsolved art heists in history. In the early morning of March 18th, 1990, two thieves disguised as police officers gained entry to the museum in Boston, Massachusetts. They overpowered the security guards and proceeded to steal 13 works of art valued at an estimated $500 million. The thieves were two men dressed as Boston police officers, and they approached the museum's side entrance and claimed to be responding to a disturbance. They convinced the security guard to let him in. Ooh, sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. Once inside, the thieves quickly overpowered the two guards on duty and tied them up in the basement. They then looted the museum and took their time to carefully select the art that they were going to steal. The stolen art, the thieves made off with a remarkable collection of masterpieces, including Rembrandt's The Storm of the Sea of Galilee, Johann Vermeer's The Concert, Edgar Degas's 5 works on paper, a Chinese bronze beaker from the Shang Dynasty, and a Napoleonic eagle. Kind of a nice little sampler of priceless artwork. The FBI and the museum have been investigating the theft, well, for nearly 35 years now. And no arrests have ever been made. The case is unsolved, and the stolen artwork has never been recovered. The museum is offering a $10 million reward for information leading to the recovery of stolen works, which is a pretty good reward. You get that reward, you drop a dime on the people who stole the art, and you could probably retire. You probably wouldn't have to work anymore. So let's do it. And if you do know and you report it, make sure you give me part of that fee. I would be very happy. The Catacombs of Paris. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have seen, or at least aware that, the Catacombs of Paris have all these skeletons all over the place, and it's just a very creepy looking space. But the Catacombs of Paris are a network of underground tunnels that hold the remains of over 6 million people. The tunnels were originally created by quarrying limestone, when that limestone was used to build much of Paris. By the 18th century, the cemeteries in Paris were overflowing, which was leading to unsanitary conditions. Ugh. So, to address this, the government decided to move the remains from the cemeteries into the abandoned quarries. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Kill a giant hole with a bunch of skeletons. Starting in 1786, bones were transported to the tunnels and arranged in a specific order, creating the catacombs that we see today. It's sort of wild to think that they are in a specific order, that those bones are organized in a way. Seems like it would be a great, creepy tourist destination in Paris. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was assassinated on November 26, 1963 by Lee Harvey Oswald. Or was he? The assassination of JFK remains one of the most controversial and debated events in American history. While the government concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in killing the president, many alternative theories and conspiracies persist, suggesting a more complex plot. I think a lot of us have seen enough about the JFK assassination, from, that movie to various internet stuff. And then there was that Seinfeld episode that was also pretty great. So, some of the most prominent JFK assassination theories are that the CIA did it. Oh, that CIA, always doing stuff. They believe some rogue elements within the CIA orchestrated the assassination due to Kennedy's handling of the Bay of Pigs invasion, his attempts to limit the agency's power, or his attempts to make peace with the Soviet Union. The Mafia. It's believed that the Mafia may have sought revenge against JFK for his crackdown on organized crime led by his brother, the Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy. The military-industrial complex. This theory suggests that because Kennedy wanted to de escalate the Cold War, reduce military spending, and not engage in the Vietnam War, led to the military industrial complex having Kennedy assassinated. Lyndon B. Johnson. People believe that Vice President Johnson orchestrated the assassination attempt to assume the presidency and advance his own political agenda. And finally, well, not finally, I'm sure there's lots of other theories, but another theory is the Soviets, because why not? They probably would have tried to. The Oak Island Mystery. The Oak Island Mystery revolves around a small island located off the coast of Nova Scotia, Canada, that has been the site of a strange treasure hunt for over 200 years. It all began in 1795 when a teenager named Daniel McGinnis discovered a strange hole in the ground, which is now known as the Money Pit. And with the help of his friends, he began digging, uncovering layers of logs and mysterious markers. This sparked a legend that has captivated treasure hunters and fueled countless theories about what might be buried there. Over the years, excavations have found various clues, including layers of logs found at regular intervals within the money pit, suggesting a deliberate construction, not that they're just digging a hole. Coconut fibers have been discovered in the pit, despite the fact that coconut trees are not native to the region. Stones with inscriptions have been found in this pit. Particularly, a stone with an indecipherable inscription was reportedly found at the depth of 90 feet. Some believe it translates to 40 feet below 2 million pounds are buried. The mystery of Oak Island has given rise to numerous theories about what is buried there, including pirate treasure. Of course, why not pirate treasure? Religious artifacts, Marie Antoinette's jewels, and perhaps Shakespearean manuscripts. Now, you think it would be pretty easy with modern tools and, modern machinery to just sort of dig into this hole and figure out what's there, but I mean, that just might ruin the whole intrigue of the whole thing. So there you go. The Oak Island Mystery. Mermaids. Everybody knows what mermaids are. Mermaids are aquatic creatures with the head and upper body of a human, usually a woman, and the tail of a fish. One of my earliest memories was seeing The Little Mermaid in theaters. These beings are often depicted as beautiful and enchanting beings. Now, interestingly, there are a lot of different cultures that all have mermaids in their mythology. Such as Greek tradition, Syrian tradition, even some African cultures include mermaids in their stories, or what would be considered mermaids. Now, a theory that I've heard about mermaids is that they were just regular sea animals that have been seen. I've heard manatees specifically were seen and confused for mermaids. And if you think about it, you've got a bunch of, pirates or people on a boat. They're dehydrated. They've been in the sun all day. They've got scurvy. They've probably only been drinking alcohol. So they might have accidentally confused, whatever sea thing that they saw for a mermaid. I think that theory holds a lot of water. No pun intended. unless you like the pun. Then that pun was intended. And finally, we reach the end of Tier 1 with ghost sightings. Ghost sightings are reports of apparitions, figures, or other unexplained phenomena that are often attributed to the spirits of the deceased. These sightings occur in many, many, many different cultures and throughout history. And one of the most, persuasive theories about the existence of ghost stories is how many different people have had ghost sightings. Ghost sightings can be anything from seeing, a humanoid apparition to seeing shadows and silhouettes to experiencing cold spots and also unexplained noises like footsteps, voices, moving objects falling on their own, or just a general feeling of a presence of somebody when no one is visible. Now, there are a lot of paranormal explanations for ghost sightings. Some believe that ghost sightings are the evidence of, the survival of consciousness after death, or, the soul existing outside of the body. I talked in an earlier video about, my belief that a lot of these could probably be explained by cats, cats running around, knocking stuff over, making weird noises, etc. And, there's also a lot of people who, fake ghost sightings for attention. We did it, team. Good job, everybody. That is Tier 1 of The Unsolved Mysteries and Weird Things Iceberg by Juan the Pickle. Juan, if you're out there, hit me up. If you're ever in Chicago, give me a call. If you like my content, if you like spooky content, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go follow me on Twitter and TikTok. My username is AKBrews. If there are any other spooky, disturbing stories you would like me to research, please send me an email at thespookylawyer@gmail.com. Thanks for hanging with me for this whole project, and I will start on Tier 2 soon. Thank you for watching my video, and as always, stay spooky.